folks. Welcome to the Field and Garden Podcast. It's your friend and host, Lisa Mason Ziegler, and thanks so much for joining me here today. So, I sit in a really unique position, talking to so many different growers at all different stages of life. And, here recently I have been doing many interviews with other growers and other people that are in other flower-based businesses, like I'm thinking of design studios and florists that are actually using local flowers. So they're kind of involved with us, but yet they aren't flower farmers, right? Anyway, I have learned so much about how other people do things and how to look at stuff from a different perspective. And they've really opened my eyes to a lot of stuff. And so today I am going to share with you a portion of the discussions that I had with two such people. First, we're going to take a listen to Jonalyn of Blossom Lane Farm. Jonalyn is in Florida, and she and her husband Clay have just jumped head first into the flower business. And I came to know her as I did our other student that we're going to talk about, Wanda, because they were students of our online courses is what brought us together. And both of them just have such amazing stories. And that's one of the things I've asked them is like, how did you get your start? And, it just is really encouraging, inspiring. And it just makes, and if you're in the boat as some of these are, you're in the same boat, it kind of helps you to know that there's somebody else out there going through what you're going through, right? So first, let's take a listen to Jonalyn, and we're going to hear her and Clay's story, and then hear about how they have grown their business. They've only been growing for 3 years, but they have just tackled this out of the gate and are doing a fabulous job. And I can't wait for you to hear their inspiring story. Let's take a listen. We lost you on where he went straight to boot camp from high school.
Yeah.
And y'all were going to sell vegetables at a little stand. And that's when we lost you.
Yes, because that's what he grew up doing. And I was looking for a way to help us reconnect. He'd been deployed so much that we still loved each other. We were still best friends, but we kind of lived parallel lives. And I wanted to find a way for us to be a team again and to start interacting, doing something together, and find something that we could do together. And so that's what we're going to do. And then I went to my sister's house in Spokane to help her get her house set ready to sell. And we went to a U-Pick flower place close by her house. And some people will be shocked to hear that I just started talking to the lady. And then she gave me a bunch of resources. And one of them was your name. And
Really?
Yes. Yep.
I didn't know that.
And so so I started looking at everything, and I called Clay and I was like, hey, so we're not going to do the vegetables anymore. And he's like, what? Why? And I was like, well, because we're going to do flowers instead. And he's like, I don't know anything about flowers. And I'm like, well, flowers make more money than vegetables do. And he's like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to learn about flowers. And so we started, that's why we started. And, but if you talk to Clay will tell you that the reason he wanted to do it was because for the same reasons that I did, but because I followed him around for 27 years and stuck by him and raised babies and kids and kind of put the things that I wanted off to the side so that he could pursue his dreams in the military. And he said, and now that he's retired, it was my turn, and he wants me to do what I'm doing. Yeah. Yeah, but don't let him fool you. He's just as much in this as I am. He can tell you what most of the flowers are now. I'm so impressed.
That is really, really awesome. And I want you to be sure to tell Clay that I always think of him now on Veterans Day and all. He's just given me another look. I'm not from a military family. I have had zero, even though I live in an area that is completely engulfed by the
Right.
military, here in Hampton Roads. We don't have any military in our family. And so and I've known people, but
Hmm.
he has been my first kind of inside look through
Oh,
you and y'all's
yeah.
relationship. And anyway, so I always think of him and how thankful I am that there are people like him that are willing to serve for the rest of us.
Yes.
And,
Yes. He would go
so
back and do it again in a second.
more power to him, And so anyway, I just wanted to say that though, because I always think of him. And my husband even knows who he is.
That's so funny. I've never met your husband. I only know
Uh,
about him through you as well.
yeah. So anyway, so tell us, so you guys decided to start growing flowers. And so
Yep.
what next?
So it was just going to be a little thing. We started on like a 16th or an eighth of an acre. And then we were going, I researched markets from Panama City to Mobile and decided that we wanted to go to Pensacola to the Palafox market there. And they said it was going to be a year-long wait, but they've been looking for a flower farmer. So we didn't have to wait a year. It's just a few months. And we've been selling there since we started. And
Awesome.
we love Palafox Market. And so we started that, and it was just going to be a little thing. And then my friend, and Nancy from Celebrations, the florist in Pensacola, I told her this story just a while ago, but when a friend of mine called and she's like, hey, Celebrations in Pensacola needs zinnias. And I told her about yours, and her name is Nancy. She's waiting for you to call her. So I was like, okay. But I kind of blew it off because I had no intention of selling to florists, and it really intimidated me. So they were not intimidating. I was intimidated. And she called me back a couple of days later, and she's like, hey, you haven't called her yet. You really need to call her. They really need them for a wedding, and they don't have any other place to get them from. And she's waiting for you to call, and she's depending on you. I was like, oh, fine, okay. So I called her, super nice lady. She's one of my favorite people ever in the history of ever, besides you. And so she called me on the phone, and we talked on the phone, and after we were all done, she helped me decide like what I was gonna charge her for them, because I had no idea, because I wasn't gonna do it, and it was gonna be a one-off. And then she's like, she said, so do you have an availability list? And I was like, yeah, I do. And she goes, what day do you send your availability list out? And I was like, oh, we send it out on Thursdays, because I was talking to her on Thursday. And she said, she said, great, I'd love to be put on your availability list. And I was like, great, no problem. And then
Oh, we're so good at faking it, aren't we?
I know. And then she goes, and when do you do your deliveries? I was like, oh, on Tuesdays, because I was bringing her the zinnias the following Tuesday. And she goes, great, we would love to get on your delivery route as well. I was like, great, no problem. I got the phone. I was like, oh, Jonalyn, what did you just do?
Oh, that is the best story ever. And that is so classic for how your business just stepping out of your box, right?
Yep.
I mean, I know exactly. I was terrified too. So anyway, okay, so you started selling to her.
So we started selling to her, and then I was going out to lunch with a couple of girlfriends, and there was a new florist opening in Crestview called Deanna's Florist. And so she was like, hey, there's, did you see the construction? I'm like, no, I never get out that way anymore. I'm just pretty much on the farm in Pensacola. She was like, you need to go check them out. You should go talk to her. And I was like, okay. And she goes, and I know you, so I'm going to call you when I get home and make sure you really went and talked to her. So I went and talked to her, and she's this fabulous woman. And I've been selling to her all this time too. So we have 5 florists that in 4 different locations that we do a weekly standing order with. And then we have 4 other wedding and design florists that we sell to as needed.
I mean, standing orders are the icing on the cake, right?
Yeah.
And for anybody that doesn't know what that means, a standing order with a florist is what everybody should be working towards. It's like, I never knew what it was. And when I discovered it, I said, I want that with you. So what that means is that florists need flowers to just show up at their shop every week. not for special events, not for, special colors. The flowers they use every day in their business. This is what I built my whole business on.
Mm-hmm.
And, for them to say, bring me $500 a week or $250 a week or $1,000 a week, what that gets them is, with me, is that's like their flowers come right off the top of the harvest. They get the cream of the crop because they're sold, right? And I mean, and then they call you and say, hey, I need more flowers than my standing order this week. We're doing a wedding in this color or that color. And so I am so proud of you, Jonalyn. I am
thanks.
oh my goodness gracious.
I send them out an availability list, but they really like having local flowers, and so most of the time I just cut and bring them whatever I have lots of and whatever looks really good. So the best ones, that they go to them before we do anything else. But same thing.
And I don't want people to think anybody's getting a second class flower.
No.
But there's definitely a grading system.
Yeah.
I mean, florists, we could talk so long about this, right? Florists, I mean, they're undoing your bunch and using those flowers, like 3 flowers from that bunch, perhaps in one arrangement. So you want each of those flowers to be like
as close
the Whoppers,
the same as possible,
the beautiful and consistent. And
yeah.
so all the flowers that don't meet that are what we use in bouquet subscriptions and mixed bouquets, and they're perfectly fine for that.
Yep.
They just might not be exactly what we needed for those florists. So golly day, that is so awesome.
Yeah.
So y'all are you doing weddings? Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Mostly I've done a couple of full service weddings. It's not my favorite. Well, it's not that it's not my favorite. It's just that we are so busy. It's really hard. There's no managing time when you don't have time.
Yeah, exactly.
So my favorite to do are the hybrids, where they get we'll do either, and it started more because of COVID than anything else, is a small bridal bouquet and a boutonniere, and then and that's like our elopement package that we have. And then we do one where we'll do the bridal bouquet, the boutonniere, groomsmen, and best a bridesmaid or maid of honor.
Right.
And then we do 5 buckets of flowers, and then we also sell just the buckets by themselves. And what we're doing this year is we're multi-purposing the hoop house until we can afford to build a barn. And so this coming season, we already have several booked for the DIY flowers, the flower buckets. And I don't sell specific flowers. When we do DIY buckets, we do by a color palette, and I actually got that from the girls over at Harmony Harvest. And so we sell by, and the same thing when we do weddings, we don't promise anything specific. And I think I got that from Jenny Love, is we don't promise anything specific.
Right.
What we do is we sell a color palette, and we have a really great contract for it. And it all works. And it's because of taking Jenny's course. I know we're not supposed to be talking about the other ones, but
that's all right.
The courses together have really, I mean, there are bits and pieces that aren't probably even intended for what that course is for, but you can take, when you've taken all of them, you can take all of the knowledge that you've had and just make it into, and have the confidence to take, okay, I want this piece right here, and I want this piece right here, and I'm going to make it into what works best for my farm and how we need to do things.
So very true. What Wanda said last night is that, when she took Steve and Gretel's hoops class, she still doesn't have a house, a structure. But she said, I am filling my toolbox with tools. Yep. And when the day comes, like she said last night, it was so suiting that she said, and when your toilet breaks, seeing as how I'm married to a man that has a plumbing, that when your toilet breaks, you need that tool that's been sitting in there waiting that you already got. And, y'all, I'm very honest. I am not saying this to tell people take all of our courses, but my purpose for offering these whole different areas of courses is because my belief is, as a business owner, I want to know it all so I can do exactly what you just said. It's
Yeah.
like I can build my own hybrid based on a bit. So Ellen's course, Florist School, that I think you also took,
Yep.
Growing Your Business with Local Sourcing. That's how she sells weddings, is by
Mm-hmm.
color palette and
Yep.
style.
Yes.
And then Jenny also helps with the pricing part of that,
Yes.
right? How
Yep.
to
Absolutely.
build all that. And so as a flower farmer I mean, it is just so very, very true. And I mean, so what I'm writing down as you were just talking is I wrote Jenny's course when you started talking about doing the DIY buckets, because she talks about how to do those, right? I
Yep.
mean, how to price them and um, all of that. But what's coming through to me is that you really need, because you have your fingers in way many pies, as I do, and was what drove my business, and kept me interested in my business. Y'all
Mm-hmm.
must be crazy like me, be ADHD. You know, it's like we love doing different things all the time. And that's for some people, not for everybody. But you need a consistent supply of flowers. And so
Yes.
maybe that's a segue into saying, so you took Steve and Gretel's course,
Mm-hmm.
growing cut flower crops in hoop and greenhouses. First, tell us, do you have one house, two houses, no
We have
houses?
we have one 30 by 72 house that we got through an NRCS cost share grant.
Awesome.
And then we've already cleared out a space so that we can start adding more. And we're going to be making kind of like an abbreviated version of the Willem house, because we obviously, well, it's not that we don't ever get snow here, but I've lived here for 11 years and there's been snow one time very briefly
Yep.
on the ground. So we have that, and our hoop house has morphed several times, and right now and all summer long, it's where we've been starting all of our seedlings, because we've done almost 100% seeding our own flowers this year.
Awesome.
And part of that is because going back to last September when Hurricane Sally came through. So and just as an example of the importance of having the knowledge, and then I'll go back to the hoop house part, but I think that it's really important for people to know what it can do for you and how it benefits you, having all those tools in your toolbox. Because from September of last year through March or April of this year, we had one hurricane, 4 tropical storms, a 2-week deep freeze that we'd never had, and there was no Agribon available because it was being made for masks. And then we also had 2 floods, and one of them flooded above my knees. Now, granted, I'm only 5 feet, but still above my knees is still,
that's a lot of water.
It drowned everything. And so let me tell you, this whole year, every day almost, I've wanted to quit. Like, I'm done with this. This is too hard. This is not what we started with. But then every day I would look at one of the courses that I had. And I'm like, okay, so how am I going to fix this? Which course do I need to go to figure out how to fix this and what's my next step? And then being able to talk both with the ASCFG and also in all of the Facebook groups, because each course has its own Facebook group. So you get to speak to pretty much specifically the information that you need. And having those is why we are still, I looked at our numbers in October, and we were still more than we did all year last year.
Good girl.
Thank you. And not only that, but we didn't have a spring this year, and 80% of our profit last year came from spring. So we didn't, because we were all of the storm cleanup and everything. Right. And we still have been able to do it. But it's because of the knowledge I had from all the classes that I took from you that I was able to put together what we're going to do and how we're going to do it.
You know, Jonalyn, that just makes me feel so good. I mean, you really are the poster child of the picture of what we were aiming for. And Wanda's the same way. And I know there's more out there. I just haven't talked to them yet.
Yeah.
But that was the whole point. We wanted to give people deep dives in the areas that at first they think, oh, that's me, I'll take that one.
Yeah.
And then when you take that one, you realize the sky's the limit.
Mm-hmm.
And the more knowledge you have about business, the smarter you can become,
Mm-hmm.
and the more potential there is, right?
Right. So can I give you what I would, this is my wish list. I would love for you to do, we've been drying flowers. We started drying flowers after Sally when I had this massive, huge pile of sunflowers. We had to dispose of over 20,000 sunflowers because they were all no good, not saleable. So I was distraught, to say the least. And Clay was giving me a hug in the field looking. We just dumped everything with the tractor bucket, multiple of them. And I was like, you know what? And I was like, because I was really upset. I was like, you know what? Go get all of those, and we're taking them into the flower shed. And he's like, Jonalyn, you can't sell those. You know that. And I was like, I know we can't, but we can pull out the petals off. We can dry them. And let me tell you, I have sold every single one. I had over 100 packets of little packets of dried flowers, and they're all gone. So, and I let people know that they were Sally flowers. But we did the same with zinnias. We did so a dried flower class. And if you could please figure out how to make a magic wand that we could just wave and sprinkle dust over and all the weeds would disappear, that would be the ultimate.
Funny you should say that. So we're good idea. Good idea. That is so awesome. So talk to us about how the hoop class helped you with Steve and Gretel. Did you have a house when you took it, or did you get a house after you
took it? And we already
it?
had it. Yeah, we already had it when I took the class. And by the way, because of that class, Clay is taking, I'm going to sit down right here. Clay is taking greenhouse management with his VA benefits from the University of Florida.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that we can deep dive it just a little bit more. But so we already had the hoop house. And through NRCS, their regulations are that you have to grow 100% in the ground the first year. So that's what we did. And we learned all about that. But what we really needed was a place. Lisa, we are doing hundreds of thousands of seedlings that we're starting, and we didn't have space for them. We don't have a basement. We don't have all the things that people, everybody talks about how they have them. We don't have any of that stuff because the water table is too high. So, and my little greenhouse that was like a little house was way too small, and it got way too hot. So we converted our hoop house into a seed starting area. And with long rows, we put a mister in there for the watering, because one of the things, who knew that there was a specific way that you had to water? You don't just go water everything, but there's things that you need to look for. And I learned that in the class. We learned about the pest management. That class, I learned more in that class about farming, in-depth farming, than I did about growing in hoop houses. That's what I personally took away from it, is how much there was that we didn't know that we didn't know.
Right.
And how to be more efficient. And so because of their class this year, we have logged everything that we have seeded, everything that we have planted, if we had crop failures, all of that stuff went in there. And so after our last market on the 19th of December, we will start putting all of that stuff into a spreadsheet. And so that we can see, and already we have notes about this needs to be started earlier. This needs to be not as many successions. And we know all of that because of doing logging it the way they showed us how to in the course.
Gretel is I think Gretel's the part, it's hard. Steve and Gretel are attached at the hip, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are one, no question.
Yes.
And so, it's never quite sure which one is the driving force, but the record keeping and the handouts in that class are just absolutely phenomenal, aren't they?
They are.
I mean, the fact that they did enterprise budgets on crops, and that, for anybody that doesn't know what that is tracking all of the inputs into an individual crop to see if it's really as valuable as you think it is.
Yeah.
And is it really valuable enough, per se, to growing a house, or should you be growing it out in the field? Or, I mean, It's
Do you want
just,
to know how much we sold, how many, the dollar amount of zinnias that we sold this year?
yes, please.
Over $11,000.
Awesome.
And I hate zinnias right now because at the end of the year, I just hate them because we have had them since March and we
Yeah.
cut them every single day and everybody wants them. And I'm just so tired of cutting zinnias and sunflowers by the end of the summer.
I totally understand where you're coming from. It's like all of a sudden I can't stand the smell of zinnias. It's like there's
Yes.
that smell when you're in the patch. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So, funny you should say that you learned more about farming management in that class. Wanda last night really hit home, and nobody had really told me that before. Well, hadn't hit that to me to say, even if you have no structures, there is so much farming information in this course.
Yeah.
So it's good to hear that from students. Yes, it was in the back of my mind, but I wasn't gonna say that to people in an effort to sell the course to people that don't have structures.
Right.
But I also think that once people see, I mean, people look at Steve and Gretel with 18 structures now and think, oh my gosh, they're so big, it doesn't apply to me. Wouldn't you say that a new grower just starting out, I mean, it's like it's got your roadmap for the next 20 years in that course.
It does. It does. And it gives you a really, the course is set out really well. So it's easy to go back. It's kind of like Dave's course too. It's super easy to go back and find exactly, like, pinpoint what you're looking for. So you don't have to sit and scroll through a whole bunch of things.
Right.
And waste time, because we don't have time. And even as a brand new grower, you're so overwhelmed trying to learn everything. If you have to sit and watch 3 videos to find the one thing that you're looking for, you're probably just not going to do it. But
Right.
with their course, it's super easy to go through and find what it was that you were looking for, and then be like, oh, okay, that's right, that's what we're supposed to do, and then go from there. But that class, they have, so I can't, it's not I know that that's the primary focus of it, but it's not really a hoops and greenhouses class. It's
Right.
a, how do you really like, for yours, taking your class is getting your business started and getting your seeds started and getting all of that. But once you know how to do that, where then it's like, okay, but now I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Where do I go
Right.
from here? And they give all that nitty gritty, down and dirty. These are the problems you're going to have. And if you don't have them now, you're going to have them later. And this is how you overcome them. And then they cite their sources for where they get their information from. And it doesn't matter that they're in a completely different zone than I am. Because of the Cool Flowers book, we know when we have to start that and what we
Right.
have to do. And so we just adjust it for what works for us, because yes, we're 8B, and yes, it gets cold, but usually only for an hour or two, like it's from 6 to 7 in the morning, and that's it, or from 5 to 6, and that's it. And we don't have as much sunlight as they do in the winter either. I mean, I forget, Clay told me, because I was asking about something, he's like, it doesn't stay as light as long here. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, light plays a huge role in that. Something you said earlier that we just buzzed right past. You said a Woolham house. Tell us what a Woolham house is for people that haven't taken the course and didn't hear what that is.
I don't really know what it is. So I'm calling it a Woolham house because I don't know what else to call it. But they showed it on their video and they weren't able to get directions how to make it. I couldn't find it. So I just took their description of it, and it was a good enough description that we are making them with T-post and
Yes.
the plumbing things, the little Y plumbing things.
Yes.
And then we have the thick PVC pipes. I don't even know what all this stuff is called, Lisa. That's
So
Clay's
it's like
thing.
a homemade house.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yep.
basically that's what that
Basically.
is.
And then it has you don't have to put plastic on it necessarily. What we're using it more is for in the spring, so we can put shade cloth over it so that we
Right.
can have spring flowers for a little bit longer, because our window is so short.
Right. Being in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So So you've really opened my eyes to just so much more to Steve and Gretel's course, by just what you just said, that it really helps you with the management of actually farming.
Yes.
That is really a great nugget to have. So what I want to say to you is, first off, how can people connect with you that want to follow you on Instagram and Facebook? How do they connect?
They just go find Blossom Lane Farm on both Instagram and Facebook, and they can give us a follow. It's easiest if you send me a private message. When we're really busy like this, it may take me a little bit to get back to answer, but I will answer. And I don't always see, sometimes they go in like that other mailbox that's hidden that you don't
Right.
always see. So if you comment on one of our posts, then it's really easy to start a conversation that way. And the other thing is, I've met several growers lately, because I went to the ASCFG, a couple of the ASCFG tours, and talking to the people there, they can also, if they want to ask any questions or they want any help, I don't know as much as you. I don't know as much as you have in your little teeny pinky finger.
Oh, come on.
But we do know a little bit, enough to get ourselves in trouble. And they are welcome to email me, and it's helloflowers@blossomlanefarm.com. And then that way, and just give me like 24 to 48 hours, because we have 250 wreaths to make by this weekend, and we are like super, super busy.
So I have one question that someone is asking here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you grow all colors of zinnias or just certain ones?
Every single stinking one. Because
Yeah,
who knows which color is going to be somebody's favorite.
it's true. It's true.
And then we have a rainbow in the field.
Yep, it's true. I mean,
And I
yeah.
do grow them by color. I don't grow a mix with them all mixed together, because it'd be way too hard to harvest them that way.
Yes. Yeah, we did that too. So folks that are watching, what Jonalyn and I have been talking about is one of our online courses, of which she is alumni of all of them. But the specific one that the enrollment is open right now, it's the last one of the year, actually. It's growing cut flower crops in hoops and greenhouses. And as she has just shared, that it is so much more than just growing in houses. It's about farm management, crop planning, pest and disease issues. We can't recommend it enough. And if you want to, she's offered, if you have questions, you can DM her, or comment, or even email her, but to reach out. But registration does close tomorrow night, Tuesday, November 23rd at midnight. And the class is $595. It does not start until January. It runs for 6 weeks. You get a live Q&A coaching session each week with Steve and Gretel, with one follow-up in addition. There's a closed Facebook group, so you're with your peers if you choose to do that. And then there's also an alumni Facebook group, which I feel like is the best place ever, because there's so many people that have grown longer than you in there from previous years. And people, I mean, they support each other. It's like a bunch of ants running to you and picking you up and carrying you off when you have a problem, as well as your instructors are in there. And so I just really think it's an awesome class. And I think people are exhausted, overwhelmed, making wreaths and doing all these things, that they're just kind of like, they're missing this opportunity. And I just think there's going to be a lot of remorse in December.
I agree with you.
You know,
with you.
they're really, and it's hard to invest in yourself, right?
No. You should invest in yourself first, because if you don't invest in yourself, then how are you going to be able to invest in anything else? Because you can buy all the stuff you want, but if you don't give yourself the knowledge to know how to use those tools that you bought, then how are you going to do that?
That's
true.
true.
That's my my unfiltered opinion. Sorry.
That is quite all right. No, I totally agree with you. I mean, it doesn't matter. Money can't buy being a good flower farmer.
It can't. And can I just tell you that, so if somebody's on the fence about deciding whether they want to take this course or not, maybe if they have big dreams, or they have some, even if they just have like a little kernel nugget in their heart that they want to do this, that they want to be a flower farmer, I would say take the course, because I wish that we had this course during the first 2 years that we were flower farming, and that had started out with that knowledge and been able to apply it from the beginning. And we're having to go back and undo some of the things that we did in order to be more efficient and to do well. And I can't recommend it enough. And you have a payment plan. So if they're selling wreaths, then they should have enough money to at least do the payment plan.
It's true. Thank you, Jonalyn, so much. And I appreciate you taking time out of your such a busy schedule. I know that you are slamming it. I'm so proud of everything y'all are doing. And I mean, I just wish I could come down there and walk up to your market and buy a wreath, you know?
Well, come in April, because we're starting a U-pick section that is going to be specifically for where our dried flowers come from. And then we're going to have a couple of days where we'll have U-pick, because we're really orienting our farm as well for retail side of it more towards an experience, because we're a destination vacation area. So we're really looking at that experience section, and it's completely separate from my flowers that go to the florist and to the market, so that nobody cuts some of the flowers that were supposed to be for a wedding.
Right. I am just so inspired and proud, and just y'all are just doing it. You know, you're doing it, and I'm just so happy for you. So please give Clay my love. And
I
will. Meeting y'all in Tennessee that time, that was the connection. You remember that?
Yeah, I sure do.
There's something about that, right? I just want to say again, go to thegardenersworkshop.com. You can learn all about the course. If you have questions, DM me, DM Jonalyn or Wanda, even, that I talked to last night. Or send an email to the office. We'll be happy to answer your questions. Do not DM Gretel and Steve. They are so buried alive right now. I was so happy to have them on yesterday on Facebook. I'm going to have them tomorrow here on Instagram. Anyway, so thank you so much, and have a happy Thanksgiving, and we're thankful for you guys.
We're thankful for you. So yeah, have a wonderful week. And if I don't talk to you beforehand, a very Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah.
Talk again soon.
Okay.
Ciao.
Bye. Ciao.
How about it, friends? I mean, flowers can heal a lot of hearts, right? And we knew that, and we know that. And growing them, caring for them, becoming entrepreneurs with flowers. And then, of course, the end result, the people that get the flowers also benefit. And flowers can just bring us all together. So I just love that story with Clay and Jonalyn. And I'm just so inspired by everything they're doing. But here is, on the other opposite end of the United States, is a discussion I had with Wanda of Fox Hollow Peonies in Alaska. So, yep, we're going from Florida to Alaska. And I so enjoyed my conversation with Wanda. And it was so interesting to hear how she got led into flowers. And then, both of these folks are offering also how Steve and Gretel Adams' course about growing cut flowers in hoop and greenhouses, how it impacts their businesses. And Wanda brought out something that I frankly had not even really considered. And she shares that she doesn't even have a house or a structure yet, but how much benefit she gained from their course, from the crop planting and the pest and disease issues, and just how innovative, and the handouts, the incredible useful handouts that they have in their course. So let's take a listen to Wanda, who is a teacher herself. And so I really value her opinion of our courses. And so let's take a listen to what Wanda has to say and learn about her business of growing and selling and shipping peonies from Alaska all over the United States.
What led you to grow flowers, period? What got you where you are?
So we have an amazing story of how our farm started. Basically, back in 2005, we had a really dry summer, and a neighbor down the highway, without thinking, threw their hibachi coals into the woods. And the next thing we know, there was a huge wildland fire that was raging up the highway. It burned thousands of acres here in our area. And the next thing I know, a few mornings later, the firefighters were knocking on our door saying that the fire was headed right towards our house.
Wow.
And so thankfully, the Lord, we were able to, our neighbors came from all over to help us. The local fire department came, and then there was a wildland firefighter team here, and they managed to get the fire put out, but it burned right up to our house.
Gosh.
And, they kept telling us to leave, and my husband kept saying, we're not leaving till I see the house burning. So, but anyways, we had this big woods to one side of our house that was all burned. It was standing still, but it was all standing burned wood. And like many Alaskans, we heat our house with wood. So we had this great stand of nice dried firewood to use, which we used for 3 or 4 years. And then, it turned out we had this big cleared area. And my husband kept saying, we got to do something with this. So we had this big cleared field that needed a mission. Well, I'm a teacher. I retired from teaching about 1.5 years ago, but I was taking a class at the university at the time on teachers and agriculture. And we happened to have the keynote speaker was the Department of Ag head for Alaska. And she was sharing, and this was in 2010, she was sharing things that were happening in agriculture in Alaska. And she said, if I had any land right now, I'd be putting in peonies.
Oh my goodness.
It turned out they, discovered that our peonies are blooming at a time where they're actually not blooming anywhere else in the world. And she said, we have some people who are just starting to grow peonies and see if it can be a viable agriculture crop for Alaska. So I went home that day and told my husband, I know what's going in that field, honey. Which is kind of funny because he is a retired cop and is a teamster, pretty tough guy. And he was like, we're growing flowers. You're kidding me. Right. But I talked him into it, and we planted our first 250 that fall. And we just kept adding on every year till we finally are up to about 5,000 plants right now.
Wow.
And then, of course, if any of you grow peonies, you can't harvest all of them at the close stage because you just can't get to all of them. They come on so fast. So after our first years of harvesting, I thought, I've got to do something with these peonies that, are partially open because I don't want to just throw them in the compost pile. They're so beautiful. So I thought, okay, I'm going to see if I can sell bouquets. So that's when I started 4 years ago, going to a farmer's market. And then when COVID hit, I had to pivot and, okay, what can I do to make some money? And I decided I'd offer bouquet subscriptions, which I did 2 years ago. This summer, it doubled. Wow. And it looks like next summer is going to be doubling again. Last summer, I had 24 bouquet subscriptions.
Wow, good job.
I'm kind of the only florist in the area. The nearest town is Fairbanks, which is over an hour away. So I'm always getting these panic calls from husbands saying, it's our anniversary today. Can you please throw together a bouquet for me? I'll come and get it. Or birthdays. And I also have provided flowers for weddings. So it kind of has expanded into more than just growing peonies.
So you do grow more than peonies then.
Yep.
Okay. So tell us, so you said you don't put anything in the ground, I would guess annuals before June.
Right.
Right before June 1st. So what else are you growing? And you're growing in the field and in houses or just in the field, or what is your mix kind of?
Yeah, so I just grow in the field right now. I just grow. I had some garden boxes. I actually I'm the third generation of farmers in my family. My grandparents and my parents both had farms in Minnesota. And so I grew up, my mom always had a big garden and greenhouse. So I have always also had a garden. But when I started doing the flowers, I turned all my garden boxes into flower boxes, and then have added on some more rows as we have as I've expanded what I'm growing. And then funny story, you probably saw last year that I got all excited this summer about succession planting sunflowers and planted a bunch without thinking about where I was going to put them. And at one point I was out of space and my husband didn't have time to like create a new row for me. I was thinking, what can I put these in? And I was in the grocery store and saw these kids swimming pools sitting there. I thought, I can use those. So I bought 6 little kids swimming pools, had my husband drill holes in them, and I have all those lined up, and that's where my further successions of sunflowers went. And they're very colorful. They look really cute.
You know, if nothing else, flower farmers are so innovative, aren't we? I mean, you just do what you have to do.
Yep.
So how do you sell your peonies? Do you ship, or how do you sell your main crop beyond bouquet subscriptions?
Yeah, so we ship our peonies out all over the United States, and we ship all the way from, my minimum order is 2 dozen, and all the way up to, I have boxes that hold 200. So I ship, and it's an hour's drive for us from our home to FedEx. So I ship FedEx overnight mostly, and so Tuesdays and Wednesdays I make trips up to Fairbanks to FedEx and ship all over the United States.
So when is your shipping season? So just so people have an idea of, you know, here in, of course, I'm in Virginia, so that's the Mid-Atlantic. For us, peony season is basically May and early June at the latest. So what is your shipping season?
So we start harvesting around July 1st. And so
Wow.
our season is July, and I have a professional floral chiller, and you can store peonies, as some of you have probably discovered, for quite a long time if you keep them at about 33 degrees. Right. So this year I shipped all the way into early September.
And you know, how many designers and florists get requests for peonies in the middle of summer and late summer? And so what they need are Alaskan peonies, right?
Yeah, until Alaska came on, brides couldn't have peonies, and you know, especially late summer weddings, they just weren't available.
Right. So you are an alumni of several of our courses, and one of them, which is Steve and Gretel's, correct?
Right.
And so do you have any houses yet, or is that something you're still working on, or where are you with growing in structures?
So yes, I have realized in the last year or two, because our cold goes into the spring so late, and I really do need flowers ready to go when the peonies are ready to go. So I can have the other flowers to add to the bouquets. So getting a hoop house or greenhouse was in our sort of farm plan for sometime in the next few years. So I took Stephen Grutter's class last January with that purpose of knowing that I was going to need to add a greenhouse or something sometime in the future in order to extend my season. And so it just turned out, this is kind of funny, but we have a good friend who's a pilot here in our little town. And I was driving by his house one time this last summer and glanced over in his yard, and I'd never really seen it before, but there's this little structure tucked into the woods. And I thought, that's a hoop house. And I went back and kind of looked closer at it, and it was just sitting there and obviously hadn't been used for a number of years. So I had my husband call him, and it turns out he had bought that to use as a structure to store his airplane parts and stuff. But he hadn't used it for quite a few years. And my husband said, could we buy it from you or something? And he said, yeah, I just want it out of my yard. That'd be great. So
Awesome.
So I'm just really tickled because this, hoop house just kind of fell into our lap. And I feel that the Steve and Gretel's class totally prepared me for knowing, how to use it and what I can plant in it. And that's the thing about your classes is all of your classes, I feel, are like you're getting tools to put in your farmer toolbox. And you know how it is with your toolbox at home, right? You might have some odd tool that you never know when you're going to need it, but then your toilet breaks and then you need it. And this is the same thing, even though I haven't used every single thing of all your courses and your class. Oh man, I was used to growing vegetables, and then I switched to growing flowers, and flowers are a little bit more complicated.
Yeah.
And and so my first year I really failed. I had lots of things that didn't germinate, and I was so frustrated and feeling like a failure. And I grew vegetables just fine. Why can't I grow flowers? And that was a total game changer for me. But yeah, every class you take, you get tools in your toolbox. And with COVID, we have all had to pivot so many times and change what we're doing. And I just feel that any classes you can take to add tools to your toolbox, so you have them there. And now I just totally know, what to do. And I can hit the ground running this spring when we get it moved over and put up. I don't get it put up. I don't have to try to figure out how to use it and what to do.
That is such a great way of saying it, Wanda. That it's so funny that we're already getting emails from people that say things like, oh my gosh, but the class doesn't start till January and I want to get my house up and planted. And so many times when we feel like we're behind the 8 ball, right, instead of in front of it. And it is so wonderful to at least have your feet wet when you walk into a new area, right? I mean, I totally feel that way. I mean, even in business, talking to somebody that's done it and have their advice and wisdom and support makes all the difference. So I was just talking to Steve and Gretel, earlier.
Yeah, I saw
you were
that.
over there. Yeah, I saw you on there.
Yeah.
And, I was reading through their syllabus, and I mean, just things you don't think about till you've done it, right? How they talked about when you buy a used greenhouse or hoop house or whatever it is, how it's so much better for you to be the person to take it down so you can see how it was put together, because you have to take it home and then put it back together and marking it. And I just think it's so great to have that tool to put in your toolbox. Right. That's a great way. I'm going to have to steal that from you.
And then they're like things like their cheat sheets that they share. Oh my gosh, they're pretty priceless. They have a sheet on how many transplants you need, depending on your spacing and how wide your bed is. Yeah, they've done all that work. I mean, you don't have to have a greenhouse or a hoop house to use that. They've got sheets on their planting schedule. Yes, all through the year. I mean, there's just things like that and their pests. They go through every single disease that could attack your plants and the pests that and they use biologicals. That's what I really love so much. They use biologicals to treat all those things rather than pesticides. And just any farmer can use all of that stuff. It is just so useful, even if you don't have a hoop house or greenhouse yet.
One of the things that impresses me about Steve and Gretel is how innovative they are. I mean, they work so hard. Tonight when I was talking to them, I could tell them they were just so beat. Yeah, they look tired. They are tired. I mean, between the dahlias and just getting everything done. That's why the class is in January and February. Hopefully they'll be a little rested up by then. But even in spite of that, they continue to go the extra mile to work with the universities. I mean, their soil steaming project they're working on with that grant. I mean, how much easier would it be just to use some product to just fix it? but
Right.
they really do, they go the extra mile to really try to do things like you're saying that are more, not necessarily organic, but less invasive.
Right.
Um, and, you know, I think the thing that Gretel has shared with me is that the number one crops they get questions about are ranunculus, anemones, lisianthus,
Right.
and tulips.
Mm.
And they do deep dives on those, right? I mean, didn't
Right.
you feel pretty good about, I mean, the ranunculus business? I mean, that's why Steve said they're up to 18 houses. And number 18 is a 3 bay. So I think, you know, Gretel looked at him like, I think that counts as 3 houses, not one house. So
Right.
anyway, they're just too cute together. But the depth of their wisdom and experience and their willingness to tell the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, I wasn't there, but I was a friend of theirs when they lost those greenhouses to snow load. I mean, it was horrible. It was
Right.
just horrible for them. And the fact that they're willing to relive that over and over again with their students is just pretty priceless for folks, you know?
Right. Right.
Um,
Well, and
so
they just the other thing that really impressed me just overall is, you know, my husband has a phrase. He always says, "We need to work smarter, not harder,"
yeah,
especially at our age.
yes,
And just the processes they've developed, they have just really thought out, and they keep records.
yeah,
That's so important to all of you, to encourage you. They keep records on their pests. When do certain pests show up in their greenhouses? And, you know, and they can look back and learn from those things. And it really challenged me just to look at my processes, like my peony harvesting process, and am I doing things smarter rather than
right.
harder? They just have so many things from their years of experience that they've thought through and streamlined.
But you know, I'm not sure which one of them or if it's both of them have that gift, like you're saying. They want to be do record keeping because they understand the importance of it the next time they need it. And also, you know, I mean, it is not easy to work with outsiders, to work with universities that are, you know, I mean, you have to have time on top of everything else you're doing. And that's what has just, I've always been so surprised whenever, back in the days when we were going to conferences all the time, right? I mean, I would go because I was on the board, so I had to kind of be there. But every time I would go, Steve and Gretel would be there. You know, I mean, they're still busy at home, but they value education so much. And I think it's just really reflected in their course. And I'm just really proud to have published their course for them. And I think people right now are really overwhelmed with ending their season. People are still digging dahlias. And people are screaming that we got to shop early, and I'm one of them, because we definitely have a break in the supply. We're already sold out of stuff that we know we can't get back in until next spring probably.
Right. Right.
But I think people are just pushing this aside, and I am here to tell you that if you have a house, hoop, or greenhouse, or you're thinking about it, this is a class that is going to help you for the rest of your growing days growing. Don't you agree, Wanda? I mean,
Yes. And they tell
deep.
you, they go through, I know other speakers, you do too, have gone through, you know, they go through the different markets and the pros and cons of each one. And to help you, they go through your decision-making process and how to decide which flowers to grow,
Yeah.
depending on what market you're in. There's so much in there that you don't have to have a hoop house or greenhouse to just learn. I mean, I have pages and pages and pages of notes from their class.
Well, thank you for saying that, because that's not really anything. That's not a point that I have really hit home, but you're exactly right. The crop planning. And also, don't they talk about monitoring for pests, which I think is a lot of people. I mean, you know how a lot of people monitor, oh my gosh, what's all over my plant? It's too late at that
Right.
point, right?
Right.
So yeah, I totally agree with you. Thank you for bringing that up. That I think that there is a lot in this course that can apply to field growing growers and planning. And I also think it will prime you to keep your eyes peeled of where can a hoop house or
Right.
greenhouse fit into your picture and how you can expand it. You know, one of the other things that impressed me so much about them was one of the reasons they really wanted to start really extending into the shoulder seasons was to have more hours for their employees so they would have better employee retention.
Right.
And you know, I just thought that was so smart. You know, I mean, they're big picture thinkers. There's no question about
Right.
that, you
Right.
know?
Right, for sure. And you know, I bring this up often, but you know, when I was teaching, every time I took a class on, you know, reading strategies or math strategies, or it's tax deductible. And this is the same thing in your
Yeah.
farm business. Whenever you take something, you know,
Yeah.
that is improving your business and improving your skills, it's most of it is tax deductible. So I know it's not, that doesn't help you in the moment,
Right.
but definitely, you know, down the line next spring, it'll help you on your taxes.
It will. And, you know, I think that part of one of the things that Steve and Gretel, and I hope that I have too, is you have to step back away from what's facing you in the heat of the moment and look at the big picture. And, you know, investing in your education, I know it's hard. I'm facing a big investment right now with our bigger business. And, you know, the day I was told the price after I got up off the floor, you know, each day I'm seeing it clearer and clearer that that's what I have to do. And yes, that's a lot of money, but where is that money going to take us? You know, and that's how knowledge and courses and expanding your horizons, right? I mean,
Right.
it's just so much smarter. So thank you so much for
Yep.
saying that. Um, so how can people connect with you and follow you? Tell us how folks can connect with you.
Well, it's pretty much Fox Hollow Peonies everywhere, Facebook, Instagram, and
Okay.
then our website is foxhollowpeonies.com. And I did start something the year that COVID hit, and I was worried about, because weddings were going away, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, how am I going to sell my flowers? So I'm so thankful for our private Facebook group, because I just went on there and said, hey, do any of you farmers want peonies to add to your farmers market bouquets? I'd love to send you a box of 24 mixed peonies, and you can put them in your farmers market bouquets. And if you advertise that you're getting an Alaska peonies, people will go crazy.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. I had people, you know, advertising, hey, I'm getting peonies from Alaska this weekend. You can add a peony to your bouquet for $5 or
Yeah.
whatever. And it was a big success. And
Awesome.
so, and I've made some great friends. I got to be friends with Janet with Petal and Stem, and I actually got to see her on our vacation.
I saw that. I
And
saw where y'all
visit
connected.
her farm, and we're just best buddies now because we both just really connected, and it's been fun connecting with my flower farming friends just through being able to send them a little box of peonies to add to their farmers market bouquets.
And, you know, Gretel and Steve, you know, ship flowers nationwide also. And they have commented that the majority of their customers are actually other flower farmers. And I bet that's true for you too, isn't it? It's flower farmers looking that are doing events or for whatever reason.
Yeah, or weddings. I mean, there's
Or
a lot of flower
weddings.
farmers that are branching, just like Jenny Love does, you know, into
Yeah.
weddings. And so I'm getting orders for weddings from flower farming friends, yeah, from Facebook and Instagram both.
That is so awesome, Wanda. So, Wanda, I didn't even say anything really about the course. So, we're talking about Steve and Gretel's course, Growing Cut Flower Crops in Hoop and Greenhouses, of which Wanda was a student. Wanda is an Alaskan peony grower, and she has just shared her experience. And as always, I learned something from every student I talked to about a different perspective. And I really appreciate that Wanda brought out that there is just so much benefits from this course, even if you don't have hoop and greenhouses from the crop planting. You can learn more about their course at thegardenersworkshop.com. The course doesn't start until January. Enrollment ends Tuesday night. And we'd love to answer your questions. If you can email them to the office, DM me. I try to answer all the questions that come through. And I really encourage you to check it out because it is an outstanding class. Wanda, what would you say if there's somebody wondering and thinking about whether or not they should take this class? What would you say to them?
Oh, just like I said earlier, every tool that you can have in your toolbox to give you success, it's just like when you buy a tool, it sits there in your toolbox till you need it. But when you need it, you really need it.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way. I've learned so much from Dave's class, from Jenny Love's class. Even though I'm not doing weddings, I learned how wedding florists think. What are they looking for? What they need. That has helped me tremendously in my business. So I just think if at all possible, and I know that Lisa offers a payment plan, if at all possible, this has so much in it just for flower farmers about pests and diseases and planting your crops. It just has a lot in it. And then when that date comes that you realize you do want to expand and extend your season and you're able to get a greenhouse or hoop house, you can just hit the ground running and you'll know what to do.
Thank you, Wanda. And thank you so much for joining us here. And Wanda is coming to us from Alaska. So you're about an hour from Fairbanks?
Yes, right? we're at a little town right halfway between Denali Park and Fairbanks. Mm-hmm.
Wow. So, and it's 15 degrees below where she is.
Right.
I'm a little chillier now just talking about that. We're at a whopping 45 or something here. Mm-hmm. So Wanda, I really appreciate your perspective on the course and sharing your experience. And so folks, now's the time to strike. You only have until Tuesday at midnight. Check it out. DM me if you have questions. And Wanda, I really, really thank you so much. And it was a pleasure to talk to you tonight.
Yeah, this is like a bucket list thing, with us flower farmers getting to talk to you live.
Oh, come on. I feel really honored to talk to you. I think,
Very excited.
I'm just so glad that you were able to join me here. And I really appreciate your input. And I know Steve and Gretel do too.
Thanks. Could I add one little thing really quick?
Sure.
I'm really proud to be a member of the American Grown Flowers organization.
Yes.
And I would just like to encourage flower farmers to consider joining that organization. They do so much to lobby for American Grown Flowers, including making sure that all the dinners and things in the White House have American Grown Flowers on the tables. They just did that with the First Lady's luncheon that she has every year and made sure that American Grown Flowers were on the table there. And I just, especially now when, the chains are broken from other sources, the more we can do to lobby for American Grown Flowers. And they also were very involved during COVID in making sure that, because flower farmers weren't included in the first agriculture money that was sent out. And then American Grown Flowers folks lobbied really hard to get flower farmers included on the next round of money that went out.
Awesome.
So just to encourage you to consider joining that organization. They're really great, and the dues you pay will be really well used and well spent.
Thank you for that and highlighting that. Thank you, Wanda. All right, folks, we're going to call it a night. So Laura, so you need to connect with Wanda about ordering her peonies. She's done, I think, for this year, but you can get on track for next year.
They're all under the snow right now.
Yep. So thank you so much, Wanda, and I hope our paths will pass again.
For sure. And happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you. Stay warm. Ciao.
Okay, I will. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Told you truth, didn't I? I mean, what interesting stories and interesting takes. And, we're learning from people that have moved in from other careers as they've hung up their hat in one area, whether it was serving in the special forces in the military and being a military wife and mom and moving on to new things, or being a teacher of other things and then becoming the student and learning a whole new way. And y'all, I just couldn't be more inspired by these folks. So if you want to connect with them, I'm going to put their social media connections down in the show notes, as well as a link to my website where you can find all of our online courses, as well as Steve and Gretel's. Typically our big school courses only enroll one enrollment period a year for 5 days, and then the school typically starts several weeks later. And so check the website out to see if you're actually hitting the time when there's any enrollments that are open. But remember, we have on-demand courses also, and they are always available to purchase and to listen and learn from. So friends, check out thegardenersworkshop.com. Would love for you to come over there. We have tons of free resources as well as our paid resources. We have an online garden shop selling the tools, seeds, supplies that I use on my farm. Those things that I just find to be super useful and that I've used for years. And one last request, friends, if you are enjoying my podcast, for you to share it with your friends. And the thing that helps me the most is to write a review. That kind of pushes your podcast app to show our podcast to more browsers, to people that are just looking for an interesting podcast to listen to. So I appreciate all your support, and we love being here and all of us learning how to grow flowers, sell flowers, make flowers more of our life, and to push that local envelope, right? Supporting local businesses. So friends, until we meet again, I'm signing off. Ciao.